This is The Weekly Set, an official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com.
I wish I was the monster you think I am.
You have come here to beseech me?
Yes, for your soul.
Madness can be a medicine for the modern world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I'm your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So, today, we are going to be doing episode 275, and if you followed this podcast at all, you know that every time there's like a 25th episode, every 25 episodes, we do something called
Advocates of Great Television.
All right!
This is a little game where not really even a game, where we each pick a show to represent that we're going to be an advocate for. And then we talk about that episode and we've shared it with each other and we just kind of give our case for why we like it. And then, the other person gets to react to the show as well. And so we've done this a number of times. Sometimes we've had special guests and sometimes we've taken requests in from other people for shows that we've watched and stuff. We're just kind of doing a regular one today, a little low scale one. We decided to kind of just do some comedies and we ended up each picking a comedy series to represent. And we're going to be discussing those in a specific episode in each one. Ironically, there's kind of a British connection going on here because one show's American, but based on a British show, and the other show's British. So there's kind of a little British theme going on a little bit in this.
British theme. For my pick, I picked The Office, Threat Level Midnight, and I realized if I went with my first idea for a pick, which was The Office, The Dinner Party, that would have made it a triple layered theme thing. But I did not do
a triple
that.
British layer dip.
Yeah.
Is that one of the ones with Ricky Gervais in it?
No.
Because I know he's shown up in the American Office as his British Office character a few times.
It was one. I only know of one time, and it was a very small cameo. It was
an elevator or something.
Michael was getting into an elevator, and I think he was getting out, and they have a brief exchange. But yeah, it's more like a cameo than anything.
Because they're not the same characters. They're based on similar archetypes and stuff, but they have different names and
yeah, they're different.
By doing that, and they've done the Office remake in a few different regions, they've kind of basically created an Office cinematic universe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically all of these offices exist, in the same world,
Yeah, in the same world. Yeah, they all exist in the same world.
Which is kind of funny, but, obviously, it's funny though also that the British was a very highly acclaimed British show for its time, but it only ran 2 seasons, and I mean 2 British seasons, so that's 7 episodes total or something. And here you have the American Office has run, I think it's 9 seasons. But it averaged, about 22 a season? Typical American length season. So it's just an absurd difference in the amount of content that hit each. But yeah, it's an interesting show to talk about from that perspective. But that's not what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about this episode itself, which really kind of has no relation to the original British one, except that in the original British one, they made a big deal about Ricky Gervais's character, who is the parallel to Michael Scott. In it, he's he has a different passion besides working at the office and being the boss. And that is that he wants to have this music career. And he when the series ends, he's going on tour. He's realizing his dream or something. So that's about the only kind of connection that I guess it has to this episode of The Office, the American one, just in the fact that both of them had bigger dreams about what they were going to kind of do with themselves. And with Michael Scott, that dream is making a movie.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of let you introduce your pick here. We already mentioned what it is, but I'll let you introduce kind of why you picked it and what you kind of like about it. And then we'll go into the discussion.
Okay, so I picked The Office Threat Level Midnight because The Office is a show that I love. I love particularly the American version. I tried watching the British version with Ricky Gervais. I'm not a big fan of Ricky Gervais. I found him grating, but Michael Scott and Steve Carell is a comedian I love, and I love Michael Scott as like Steve Carell's creation. He's like this lovable, idiotic goofball type of character. And this episode is great because like he makes a movie, right? And this is like peak Office because it's so ridiculous and over the top. You know, you see like, you get to, and I also love when that metafiction, when there's fiction within fiction.
Yeah.
That's always really fun because you get to see like the familiar actors, you know, and stuff like reinterpreted as new characters now. And it's just a fun episode. So that's why basically I just picked it because it's a fun episode. It's creative and it's fun.
It's interesting the way they were able to kind of pull off kind of the idiosyncrasies of the characters through other characters that they're playing, you know? Like Jim kind of like his snarkiness is kind of embodied in this character, like portrayed as like a villain, you know? But it's like embodies that. It's almost as if Michael's frustrations with Jim's snarkiness are what wrote this character. You know?
Right.
And then Dwight, like, basically forced in a plot line in which he's a robot butler, you know? Because that's Dwight, you know? So it's like you get these, like, little things that kind of are aspects of these actual people.
Yeah. They're aspects.
And become as these new characters that they're playing.
Yeah, they keep aspects of, like, their real personality. Like, yeah, Dwight being the robot butler is perfect because Dwight, like, sees himself as like Michael's like number one assistant, you know, throughout the series. You know, so
I love when he jumped in front of the bullet and then it cut to Michael Scott saying like that wasn't scripted.
Yeah, that wasn't scripted. That wasn't scripted. Oh man, like yeah, because like it's hilarious because like Michael doesn't even like Dwight that much, and just like Dwight devotes himself to Michael, like that's the gag.
Michael just tolerates him, yeah.
Yeah, Michael just tolerates him, and that's heightened here, you know, like I said, like Dwight, like robot Dwight, like jumps out and takes a bullet for Michael, and Michael's like, you know, that wasn't even in the script. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's something that was always kind of interesting because I have watched The Office, but I haven't watched like all of The Office. For me, it's one of those things that every so often I'll catch a rerun or something, you know?
I mean, yeah, because when I was picking out the episode, I knew you had seen The Office. I mean, it's it was highly unlikely that you wouldn't have seen The Office.
It's hard not to have seen it.
That's like asking, have you seen Seinfeld?
Yeah, it's like at some point you're going to pick it up by osmosis, you know?
Yeah, by cultural osmosis. It's such a big show. And it's funny too, because like, in a way, I'm almost regretting picking The Office for my pick because, like, when I was watching your pick, I thought of another show I could have picked, but I didn't think of it at the time, so...
We kind of picked these ones last minute. We kind of had we had some things that we were going to work towards. We had a special guest that we might have been doing something with, unrelated to making Advocates picks that we would have maybe have done instead of this. I haven't even told you yet, Will, but that kind of fell through because the role that she was going to play was kind of cut down to about a second on screen.
Oh,
and so she was kind of like, oh, it's kind of pointless. And I said, well, you know, if you're in something again, hit me up and we'll talk about it. Or if you just want to come on for whatever reason, you know, but she was going to come on and we were going to kind of do like a little interview thing. And I won't really even bother saying who and everything like that because I don't want to, you know, the reason why she wasn't able to do it was, I guess, a little embarrassing for her. And so that's not like something I'm going to revel in or something in any way.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a shame for sure because I was looking forward to doing that episode.
Yeah, it would have been nice to talk to somebody that, you know, somebody we both know and stuff. So, but I'm just saying that that's the reason I'm bringing this up is just to say that we picked this kind of stuff last minute because we thought we were going to be doing something different for this episode. But that kind of falls through. That's life. And so last week, we kind of said, okay, well, if we're going to do Advocates, we need to make our picks so we can announce them on that podcast so that anybody who's listening has a chance to watch them. them. And so we just kind of, you know, picked them as quickly as we could. And this is something I've been kind of recommending to people for a while now. It's just something that I watched recently. I binged through the whole series like in the last couple of months or something. So it's been on my mind. So I'm like, that'll be my pick. That'll be an easy one. And then Will had to kind of make his pick in like a matter of, you know, 10 minutes or something. I just said, just pick something. Don't worry about it. You know, don't worry about it being a perfect pick or something. Just pick something. And The Office ended up being a pretty good pick just because it is one of those shows that I just catch here and there. I haven't seen this episode before. So that made it something completely new for me. And I have watched enough of The Office that I understand like some of the idiosyncrasies of the characters as I brought up. And that made it so that it was something I could enjoy more while watching this. So it ended up being a pretty good pick.
So my question to you then, having never seen this episode again, but you're familiar with The Office.
Yeah.
Right? So, based on what you've seen on The Office and what you know about it, what did you think of this episode in particular? Like,
I thought it was really funny. I'm into spoof stuff. I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside, and that's almost how this played off as like a spoof kind of episode.
Right.
And so I like that kind of stuff. So it's like, kind of.
And another reason why I picked the episode is because it is like a spoof, and I love spoof stuff. I love stuff like, you know, Airplane and The Naked Gun.
Yeah, or A Touch of Cloth, as we watched.
Or A Touch of Cloth that we watched recently. Like that stuff's my jam. So yeah, that's another reason why I picked this, because it's right up my alley.
We talked about it when we did A Touch of Cloth about how like the spoof kind of genre just died hard.
Yes.
As a result of just some like really, really bad cheap cash-in movies that were made to capitalize on the trend, like because the genre had come back with like Scary Movie. And then like everybody was like, okay, let's put a bunch of spoofs out. And then they just buried their own genre. The people from there.
It got bad. It got real bad.
So now it's like it's so gone. Nobody wants to even try anything even remotely like that.
No. I mean, it got so bad at the end, like the movies that were coming out in the 2000s were basically just like the jokes were just like, they made a pop culture reference, and that was supposed to be the joke.
Yeah, there was no actual joke. It was just like, look, here, we're having our character recreate this scene. See that they're in there? But this isn't that movie. Isn't that funny? And then they put in like some weird like pop music dance sequence or something for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, it got bad. Like, really bad.
It'd be like, it'd be like, oh, here's the guy from Twilight. Oh no, Katniss Evergreen from the Hunger Games shot him with an arrow. Yeah. That's supposed to be funny somehow.
Yeah. Oh, this is one pop culture figure, and here's another one. Oh joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's killed so hard that nobody even wants to attempt something like that again because everyone's wary of it. So, you know, we watched A Touch of Cloth. We talked about that was like a really good one that came on British TV. And then there was like an American equivalent called like Angie Tribeca that kind of did something similar. I think mostly because A Touch of Cloth wasn't available in the US.
Probably.
Because the star of Angie Tribeca and I was one of the co-creators on the show was actually a really big fan of Charlie Brooker, who did A Touch of Cloth, which tells me she probably knew about A Touch of Cloth.
Oh, so yeah, it's Angie Tribeca. I wouldn't be surprised was like, partly inspired by A Touch of Cloth.
Oh yeah. There's scenes that are just straight up from A Touch of Cloth.
I haven't watched Angie Tribeca yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just not as good as A Touch of Cloth.
Okay.
But yeah, but it's still spoof, so you might like it just for that, aspect is a fun, it's still a decent spoof. But, we've kind of gone off topic, but this is kind of what The Office is. I mean, and it's not straight up spoof, but it's a sense of that you have this character that's kind of what's the best way to describe Michael Scott? Like, what's the character trope type to fit him into? Awkward?
I don't know. Like,
grandiose awkward?
I don't know if he fits a specific character trope. He's kind of like his own thing.
He's got big ideas of what he thinks he's going to be, but he doesn't really have the skill or understanding to back them up, I guess is kind of like the best way to put it, which makes a lot of the comedy kind of at his expense, but not really. Like, it's still kind of like looking at him as a relatable person that's got some sadness to him and stuff, and there's more going on with him than just being like a joke.
He's a guy who like overcompensates and wants people to like him so badly that he just does ridiculous shit.
Yeah,
you know?
It's cringe comedy.
Yeah.
And so you have a character like that, and then you have, okay, well, if they made a movie, what would it look like? Well, it would be horrible.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
In doing so, you end up with like what ends up looking like a spoof movie, basically, but it's not. It's like, it's his attempt to make a serious movie, but it's so compromised by his, I guess, ineptitude and need to be like a hero or like a big, like an important person that it ends up taking itself too seriously, and that's a big part of what makes it so funny. This actually reminds me of a really old episode, and I don't remember the episode name. I don't even remember that many details of it. But you watched like Doogie Howser MD, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like way back in the day.
Okay, so here's what I remember about Doogie Howser MD. I can't remember if I ever watched a full episode of it. But I definitely remember the opening credits, and I remember like his friend. And I think that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, and like he'd always end the episodes by typing in his computer journal.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the computer thing. Tim typing on his computer is like one of like the only things I remember about that show.
But there's an episode of Doogie Howser that I remember. I remember certain aspects of it very clearly, but not like details, I guess. And that's there was one where his friend had wanted to be a filmmaker. And this is like was running through the series, and he was really trying hard, and he made like a horror film, and he screened it for like, Doogie and Doogie's family and like other people that they knew and stuff, other characters in the show. And everybody was laughing because it was like it kind of came across like cheesy horror comedy. And he got really upset because that's not what he meant, And I remember there was a moment where like Doogie's dad like took him aside because he was like kind of had left the room and was kind of like crying or like was really upset. And he had told him like, hey, maybe this isn't what you wanted as your end result, but look you made everybody happy. Like everybody's enjoying your movie. Like they're not laughing at your movie. They're laughing at like your movie as a source of comedy. And maybe that's not what you intended, but you still made something, And that was like kind of the big lesson of the story is that, like you might not achieve what you want from it, but that doesn't mean, well, you get the idea.
Yeah, I get
so I was thinking about that a lot while we were watching this. And I was also thinking about, and this is kind of like away from the funny side of things, that like I have this belief myself that like anybody who actually does something, like makes a full-length movie, writes a full-length book, even if it's fucking horrible, you did something amazing by doing that, That's like something that's very hard to do, to like make a full movie, even if it's bad. It's still incredibly hard to do, to write a book. Even if the book's cliche and total trash, you still wrote a fucking book, That's still like that's a big accomplishment, And so like I was thinking about that, and that was kind of influencing how I felt about the episode, because I saw that in like Pam and Jim trying really hard and trying to convince everybody to not laugh during the movie and to just enjoy it and have fun with it, but not to laugh at it because Michael was sensitive about it.
Right.
And so that gave it like another layer for me personally, as somebody who's, tried to write books or tried to do things and just hasn't gotten through to do it because it's just a lot of work to do something like that.
It is a lot of work.
Bad. And so like I had respect, even though I'm like laughing watching his, horrible movie. At the same time, there's like a respect I have for the character, for the fact that he actually did it, And so I was kind of like enjoying like how they were exploring that, and like how they were exploring how he was dealing with that, and how by the end he had kind of come to terms with the fact that it was a bad movie, but that it was enjoyable in that sense. So I wanted to bring that up as like a personal connection I made to this episode. So yeah, is there anything else we want to talk about with The Office?
No, I'm good. I think we covered all the big points.
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, we could name off like funny scenes and stuff from it. But.
Yeah, we could go on forever, but we got another show to talk about, and I think And I think I'm like anxious to share my thoughts on your pick.
Okay, so my pick is, well, first off, I should say The Office is still available on Netflix if you want to watch it, and the episode was Threat Level Midnight, Season 7, Episode 17. Should have said that at the beginning, but I missed that. But if you want to watch that, it's still going to be there. Office, if you, everyone's heard the news, Office is eventually going to be leaving Netflix, but it's on there for the rest of the year. So, in 2020, you'll be able to watch it on Netflix. But now we're going to be talking about Friday Night Dinner. This is my pick. We're talking about the first episode of the series, entitled Sofa Bed, and this is available in the US on Amazon Prime. So I picked the first episode in particular for this series because this series has like a very simple premise. It's basically a Jewish family and they get together every Friday, which is a common thing amongst Jewish families to have dinner. Like the kids live on their own, you know, they don't live at home still and stuff. So they come home and they have a dinner and then just kind of like wacky stuff happens, but a lot of it's just running jokes. It's just there's a crazy neighbor and there's like the father's kind of weird in a few different ways and the mom is kind of weird in her different ways.
Which I guess like you don't really get in the first episode because from the way you described it to me, like these jokes like repeat throughout every episode in the series. So I'm watching the first episode, so it's my first exposure to a lot of these gags. So I'm guessing it hits harder when you see them again as you watch more episodes.
Yeah. This is a show about running gags.
Okay.
So you watch the first one and it takes a little while, like we talked before the show and you were saying that like it took a while to pay off. And that's the case.
I gotta admit, like for the first like good 20 minutes, I'm sitting here going, you know, I mean, I was like, okay, this is all right. I mean, it's kind of, it's just, you know, there's, you know, it's kind of like a family having dinner and it's a little wacky. I mean, there's some things where it's like, it's mildly wacky. Like the dad doesn't have a shirt. There's a weird neighbor using the bathroom. And I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's mildly like wacky, but this isn't like laugh out loud funny or anything. So I'm kind of like, but then like the last, like, it's interesting because like there's a lot of setup for like, there's payoff because like things are set up throughout the episode and then you get to like the last 10 minutes and it's like dominoes start falling and everything goes to hell. And that's when it gets hilarious.
And here's the thing I'll tell you is that like there's so much more setup than you're even realizing that you've been through that pays off as soon as the beginning of the second episode.
Oh, really?
There's setup that you're not even aware you've been set up with. But then when you start watching the second episode, you're going to be like, oh, this shit again, you know? And then it just, this is like a show that's basically a mastery of the running gag. And there's just like tons of running gags. Like everything that happens is basically a running gag. And if you're into running gags, then this is going to be the show for you because as each episode like keeps going on, it keeps escalating those running gags. And so you had the build up from some of the things that happened in that first episode that kind of built up to the ending of that episode. But now, like, if you go into the second episode, you're going to have stuff that you didn't even realize was a build up that starts paying off there, you know, because everything is a running gag in this entire series.
Right.
So yeah, so I hope you watched more of it. I hope that you enjoyed the end enough that you're going to watch some more.
You know what? Yeah, I will watch some more of it.
It's a really easy watch.
To see, yeah, it's like 20 minutes per episode. Yeah. It's not bad. I almost looked up Friday Night Lights.
Every time I try to write Friday Night Dinner, I start typing light.
Yeah. So you had already told me we had watched Spaced on the podcast earlier this year. Mm-hmm. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, then you heard us talk about Spaced. You know that one of the most prominent actors on Spaced was Mark Heap, who played what was his character's name in Spaced?
Spaced is Brian, I believe.
Yes, that's right. He played the artist Brian in Spaced.
Hey, fear.
Yes. And in this, like, he plays like a very different character. He plays the neighbor Jim, who came off to me like very strange. He came off to me as like a Milton-esque character. If you've seen Office Space, you know who Milton is.
Yeah,
Came off as like very Milton-esque, like strange character.
You expected him to ask for a stapler.
Yeah. because like he's very strange. He's very meek. You know, he has like a very meek way of speaking. You know, like but like. How to describe the things he does? Like they're eating dinner and he's just standing there like staring at them, and they're like, you know, like, okay, so like, do you need anything? And like he, you know, like.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to impose, and they're like,
he's like, I don't want.
Don't worry, you're not imposing. And then he goes, okay, and then he just like walks further into the room.
He's like, oh, lovely spread there. They're like, yeah. But he doesn't say like anything else. It's like, it's so awkward. Like this guy is a trip.
Yeah, Jim is a weird character, and it just kind of cements. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Mark Heap. He was also in another really funny role where he played a really weird character. He was in a show called Green Wing. That's kind of like Scrubs. It's kind of like similar to Scrubs, but it's like a British show, and it's and actually the mom from this show is also in Green Wing.
Okay.
But he plays like a really weird character in that show as well. Similarly weird, but with a lot more confidence than Jim. Jim clearly has very no confidence, you know.
So you've prepared me to look out for Mark Heap in this show. You did not prepare me that Matthew Holness was going to be in this first episode.
That's something I'm just not even aware of. You had brought this up, and I was like, oh yeah, because you mentioned Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and I'm like, I've seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, but it's been like more than a decade, I think, since I've seen it.
Yeah. And I was like, and likewise, it's been a while. And so this guy shows up, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I recognize this guy from somewhere. And I'm trying to think of it. Usually I'm
Can we say about how they used the running gag to have him show up in the first place, which is hilarious?
Oh, yeah.
One of the first moments that made me laugh out loud on the show was when...
Yeah, it's great. It's because, Jim, like, as the episode opens, the two brothers are coming home from dinner, and the first thing they encounter is the door open, and Jim is in their bathroom. Right. And it's explained that Jim is using their bathroom because like he broke his. And there's like a joke about that where they ask him how. Well, there's a joke about like where they keep asking like, how did he break his bathroom? But like you never get that answer. Yeah. So like that's left up to your imagination how he managed to do that in the first place. That in itself is funny, you know, but...
And then he just keeps showing up.
He just keeps showing up to use the bathroom. So, like, eventually, like, after, I think, Jim's second visit, this Matthew Holness shows up, and he has to use their they let him in, and he goes and uses their bathroom.
Well, it's because there's a knock on the door, and they think it's Jim.
Yeah, they think it's Jim. So
before they even open the door, it's Simon Bird's character who plays Adam, one of the sons. He kind of says, yes, go ahead, use the bathroom.
Yeah,
and he opens up the door, and it's not Jim, and the guy's just like, oh, thanks, and just...
Yeah, he just runs in the bathroom, like, before, like, they even realize what happened. And then they're like, wait, that's, like, some guy not... And at first, like, I was like, what the hell's going on? Is, like, the entire, like, neighborhood gonna use their bathroom now? It's like...
and it's just, like, weird, because it's like, why is there there's some man in our bathroom? And they're like, yes, we know Jim. He's like, no, not Jim. Some man is in our bathroom.
And it's funny because, like, apparently, like, there was, like, the sofa bed that they were selling, and this guy was like apparently buying it, and he explains like he came to buy the sofa bed.
Yeah.
And I could say like this is the first time I've seen Matthew Holness outside of Dark Place, so like that's why it surprised me when he showed up. But he's good too. He plays a normal character. He's not like some weirdo.
Yeah, but like, he's kind of more reactionary.
He's kind of more reactionary, but like there's this hilarious scene where they're trying to get the sofa bed down the stairs, and in the middle of it, he gets a call like his dad died. Oh my God, there's like another joke too, where like the father can't understand like anything Matthew Holness is saying, even though he's speaking like perfectly clear English.
He's got like a hearing aid. He doesn't hear that well.
Oh, okay. I don't think that was explained that well in the
You
episode.
see him playing with his ear and stuff, but like you kind of get it more as you watch more of the episodes. You kind of
so apparently Yeah, because, okay, so that's because of hearing aid. Because, like, yeah, I don't think that's explained well, because, like, he doesn't have an issue with, like, anything anybody else says to him, but, like, Matthew Holness's character seemed to be the only character he kept, like, misinterpreting.
Yeah, he misinterpreted him a lot, but even with the other people, he'll constantly say, like, what? Like, ask them again or something like that.
Oh, that's true.
That's all part of that. Like, and it has to do with the approach of the show, just that it kind of just drops you into the middle of these characters' lives. It doesn't, like, introduce them to you properly. It just kind of drops you right in.
So they're used to it. So, like, that's why. Yeah. It makes sense. Okay. I'm surprised I didn't pick up on it, but it's funny because, like, because he gets a call, like, his dad died, and the father turns to him and says, "I'm sorry your dog died."
Yeah. And just everyone's just looking at him like, you fucking idiot.
So there's a setup, there's this long setup for, like, the end too, like, because, like, the brothers are, like, constantly playing pranks on each other. Like, the one brother, like, puts salt in the other brother's, like, water. And so, like, he goes to, like, dump the water and, like, get a fresh glass. But, like, on the way, his brother, like, prank calls him by calling the house phone, and his mother asks him to pick it up. And he's just like, and he picks it up, and of course it's his brother pranking him. But he sets down the glass of salt water and just leaves it there. He forgets about it.
Well, he also sets up his brother, too, by pouring some salt in his brother's mug.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, he forgets about the cup that he had, the salt water, and he goes into the kitchen to get a fresh glass, and as he's grabbing a new glass, he sees, like, his brother's mug, and he gets this idea that he's gonna put salt in his brother's mug,
Yeah.
He's gonna get him back.
He's playing the long game.
Yeah. He's playing the long game. And this comes to a head at the end because, like, after Matthew Holness's character gets the call that his dad died, he's, like, in I guess, like, the living room, like, grieving, and, like, the father is like, "Oh, let me get you a cup of tea," and he goes and he grabs, like, the brother's, like, teacup that has, like, the salt in it, and he makes tea with it. He makes tea in there, and he gives it to him, and he's like, "Oh, God. Oh, yeah, there's salt in this tea." He's like, "Oh, geez, there's salt in this." And they're like, "What?" And then he's like, "Oh, God, I need to wash this out." And he grabs the glass of water that's still on the end table by the phone. And he takes a drink of it, and he spits it out. He's like, "Oh, there's salt in the water. Why is there salt in everything? Why do you people put salt in everything?"
He thinks these people are, like, torturing him or something.
Yeah.
It's also funny because he tries to run out, but, like, the door has, like, a tricky latch. So he can't open the door, and the more he's trying, the more he's, like, panicking. And they're just sitting there very cool, like, going, "No, you have to jiggle the latch," and he's, like, looking back.
Yeah, he's, like, looking back.
He's, like, terrified that he's, like, walked into, like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house or something.
Right.
So yeah, there's lots of, like, those kind of, like, running jokes and stuff throughout this. So yeah, anybody that watched it that's kind of like, yeah, there's some funny parts, but it kind of, it took a while to get there and stuff. Just remember what I'm saying. This show's like the masterwork of running gags. This is like, if you were to make a master class about putting running gags in a comedy show, this show would be like the teacher of that class. And that's what this whole thing's about. So the more episodes you watch, the funnier it gets. Not because the show keeps getting better, but because it iterates on humor that was already there. Some of it which is not that funny now, but starts to become more and more funny the more it happens. So it's one of those kind of things. So it's the kind of thing that rewards you the more you watch it. So there's 4 seasons of the show in the US. There's 6 seasons in the UK. I have no idea when seasons 5 and 6 are going to come out here, or if there's going to be any more seasons. I don't know. This is like the problem with import shows, You don't always know exactly what's going on with them.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, there's at least another 2 seasons ready to go that just aren't here yet. They're not licensed. All of these seasons are available on Amazon Prime, but as is the case with Amazon being the clusterfuck that it is, if you click on the wrong link, it'll say that you need to purchase the episodes.
Oh, really?
So if you get that, just kind of back out and look for the other one. Cause like I did that when I was trying to take like a screenshot from the episode for the cover art. I was like, okay, I need a screenshot out from this show. And so I was watching it. I was going to like just take a screenshot, and I went there and I'm like, is it not free on Prime anymore? Like, and then I backed out and realized that like it's both available for sale and free for Prime members. At least the first season is, like, weirdly enough. So just be kind of careful about that. It is free on Prime. So if it asks you to buy it and you already have Prime, then just kind of back out and look for another link that's, you know, like if you search for it in Amazon or something, there should be 2 links to season 1 in there. And one of them will have the episodes that you have to pay for them. The other one will be free with Prime. And the first 4 seasons are all available. I think there's like, I don't know, I think there's like 6 episodes per season, something like that. It's not like super short, like A Touch of Cloth. It was like, you know, 2 episodes a season, whereas like it was in the US presented as like a movie, basically.
Yeah, A Touch of Cloth, like as the episodes were presented on Amazon, were like about an hour and a half each.
Yeah, they were each like a movie or something, but in the UK it was 2 episodes. Like they'd air them, but they aired them like back to back. So like they'd air like one episode on Sunday and the other episode on Monday, kind of thing.
Right.
And then they just kind of combined them for some reason here, just to make our lives more confusing. As Amazon likes to do with their interface for their Prime Video stuff. They like to make things more confusing than they need to be. But yeah, so check out both of those. That's The Office, Season 7, Episode 17, Threat Level Midnight, or just watch The Office in general. That's on Netflix. You can check that out. And my pick, Friday Night Dinner. We were talking about Season 1, Episode 1, The Sofa Bed on Amazon, but there's 4 seasons available there right now, and another 2 seasons, I guess, waiting in the wings that'll maybe come out here at some point. Who knows? So that's it. That's the shows we're discussing, that we discussed today. Next week, we are going to be talking about The Boys. They had the penultimate episode just this last Friday, and the season finale is going to be this coming up Friday. And so we're going to be talking about both of those episodes. We're not going to be talking about Lovecraft Country yet. We're going to talk about that the next week. And then so that next week, we're going to talk about the last 3 episodes of Lovecraft Country. So we're just kind of finishing up both of those shows. So that's what's coming up in the next 2 weeks as far as the podcast goes. But thank you everybody for listening to this round of
Advocates of Great Television. All right.
all that's left to talk about is what's coming up in the next couple of weeks on TV. So as we're recording this, Monday, October 5th, 2020, Soulmates came to AMC. On Tuesday, October 6th, Next comes to Fox. On Wednesday, October 7th, Doctor Who, The Faceless Ones miniseries comes to BBC America. On Sunday, October 11th, Fear the Walking Dead comes to AMC. The original Walking Dead is already airing. I think it might have just been the finale that aired as an extra episode, though. I don't know. It's all weird. It's COVID stuff. Then on Wednesday, October 14th, The Baroness von Sketch Show comes to IFC. On Thursday, October 15th, Star Trek Discovery returns to CBS All Access. On Friday, October 16th, this will be an interesting one, Marvel's Hellstrom comes to Hulu. What's interesting about this is that it's in listings, if you look it up, as Marvel's Hellstrom. If you watch the trailer, it just says Hellstrom.
Yeah, and they took the Marvel branding out of the trailers.
Yeah, it looks like there's no link. It doesn't appear to have any link to Marvel at all. It's still listed when you look it up anywhere where it's written about. It's still listed as Marvel's Hellstrom, but it's kind of like weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Yeah,
it doesn't look too terribly great. I think this is the last of the Marvel shows before it all went under Kevin Feige's branding.
Yeah, it is.
So this is the last of that era where we had those Marvel Netflix shows and we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all these different things. All that stuff's kind of dying off, and it's kind of going more into stuff that's directly related to the MCU now. Everything's going to be kind of connected to that now. So this is kind of like the last of those, of the old guard, I guess. So that'll be interesting. I'll check it out for sure, but it doesn't look too great. On Sunday, October 25th, The Undoing miniseries comes to HBO. And lastly, on Monday, October 26th, Temple comes to Spectrum. So that's it. That's coming up in the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned, next week we're going to be talking about the last 2 episodes of Season 2 of The Boys. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.